Good morning and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus, to another analysis and breakdown of the Quran of the Muslims! Yes, we are back once again, breaking it down verse by verse into factual, logical statements in English so we can understand who or what is Allah, what does he mean by this, and more importantly, how does this affect us non-believers in our lives in the world today? So before I start, as I always do, I'm going to tell you now, if you have any doubts as to the things I'm about to say or my factual accuracy, please first buy and read one of these, and after having done so, you'll recognise every single word I'm about to tell you now is 100% true of the words of Allah and what Muslims believe today. So, if you've been keeping up with the series, yesterday we went through some more reflective content rather than reading through the verses, and I feel like we needed that reset to get our minds back on the subjects that we care about and a loving, peaceful attitude rather than the hateful, genocidal, maniacal killing that this book represents. So, with that in view, let's carry on. 200. This is good. This is Allah's gonna enlighten us now why he needs his Muslims to be completely poverty stricken and why he should have all the money. 200. Taking profit from your life will not stand, for only Satan takes profit unto himself, driven by his madness. They say, profit is natural for an honest trade, but Allah hath forbidden you to take a benefit from it. Those who after hearing Allah profit no more will be forgiven for it in their past, for Allah will be their judge. But those who repeat to make a profit themselves shall burn forever in fire. End of verse. So we get back with a absolutely typical approach from Allah to his Muslims. So what he's saying here, excuse me, what he's saying here is, O Muslims, making money for yourselves is bad, and only Satan is allowed to take profit, and that's driven by his madness. So I feel this is very interesting because, as we know, Allah is very concerned with his Muslims taking everybody else's money and funneling it back to him in his mosques. So saying taking profit from your life will not stand is not saying it's bad. What he's saying is it's good to take profit, but it's bad to keep it for yourself. You should give it straight back to Allah. And that's what he means by saying it will not stand, only Satan takes profit into himself. So only this guy is allowed to have the profit, you're not. Otherwise you're mad. That's what this means. He goes on. They say, as in other people who aren't Muslims are going to say this to you, they're going to say, profit's natural for an honest trade. And that's a fact. Profit is a fact of natural trade. If I buy something or if I make something, then I sell it to you, you have to pay a little bit extra for the fact that I did that work or I made the thing. And that's absolutely fine. But not to Allah. No, you're not allowed to take profit. It has to go back to Allah. Even if you made the thing or you worked on the thing, you're not allowed to keep that little extra slice of profit. It has to go back to the mosque and back to Allah. Otherwise, he will not love you, you are sinful, and I quote, you will burn forever in fire. And then the rest of this is just him saying, after hearing Allah, as in after you've read this book, any profit that you've made in the past, you can keep, as long as you give it back to Allah the next time. So what he's saying there is, even if you've profited in the past, let's say you used to be a gambler and you made like £1 million, that's okay, as long as you give it to Allah, and then it's fine. Otherwise you're evil and you'll burn in the fire. And what he says is, those who repeat to make themselves a profit, they shall burn in the fire forever as well. So it's very clear what this verse is telling us. It's saying anyone who makes money has to be making it for Allah. If you already have money in the bank, give it to Allah. And if you make money in your job regularly, don't be keeping that money or you'll burn in fire forever and be sinful. You have to give it to Allah. Otherwise, you're not worshipping him enough. And it's worth keeping in mind his previous claim that he controls the hearts and minds of everyone through mind control. If he's mind controlling you, why does he need to constantly threaten you and tell you if you have money saved up in the bank, give it to Allah and he'll forgive you? Surely if he was mind controlling you, you wouldn't even have a bank account, you'd just be paying it straight to the mosque. So one of these is false. Either he can't mind control you, or he shouldn't be threatening you because the mind control's working. And that's the end of that verse, so we'll carry on. 201. Allah will severely punish you in your profit. He's just going to be repeating himself a lot over this page, I think. So, 201. Allah will severely punish you in your profiting, but reward you in a profit blessing to Allah, for Allah hates evil sinners who are the greedy ones. So breaking that down, even though he's already said it 3 times in the last verse, he's re-impulsing this fact that Allah will severely punish you if you make any money. Like, you're allowed to take money from the sinners, you're allowed to loot people on the way to and from Mecca, you're allowed to make profit from selling alcohol and gambling in your shops, but woe betide you if you spend any of that profit or save it up for yourself. It has to go back to Allah. And if you reward Allah with your profit blessings, you will be loved. And if you don't, and I quote, Allah hates evil sinners who are the greedy ones. So you're not allowed to be greedy or he'll hate you and you'll be a sinner, but him demanding that you give all your money to him constantly, including any savings and future earnings, which by the way is called usury, which is another reason why he hypocritically hates the Jews. He hates the Jews because they have interest and they have usury. But this is usury to Allah. Let's make that perfectly clear. Allah severely punishing you in your profiting unless you give it to him. Future and past earnings also needing to go to him, including savings. That is Allah's taxation upon his Muslims. And then he has the gall to say Allah hates evil sinners who are the greedy ones. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Allah. You're taking all their money. So the greedy one is you, dear brother. So anyway, let's carry on. 202. O Muslims. Oh, you know he's going to be... He's having a little private team talk with his Muslims now. 202. O Muslims, you shall live only to enrich and make a profit for your mosque, and be rewarded by your Lord. Ye shall never feel grief or pain. End of verse. So breaking this down, we've heard this quite a few times in the past from Allah. What he likes to say is, if you give me all your money while you're walking away feeling sorry for yourself that you are now poor once again, despite the fact that you did a whole day of robbing and pillaging to get that money together, once you've given it to Allah, he's going to make you warm and fuzzy in your heart. You won't feel pain or grief or sadness or lack of money, even though you will. So what he's actually saying here is, once you've given your money to the mosque, don't be fucking moaning. Get back to the worship. Don't be doubting, questioning, or having thoughts that Allah has not told you to expressly have. Otherwise, you shall be hated as a greedy evil sinner. But if you do that, if you give your money away, you don't ask for any reward or praise, and you don't bitch about it on the way out, i.e. don't go, oh, I wish I'd kept some of that money to eat with. If you don't do that, you shall never feel pain or grief, apart from for the money you just gave away. 203. O ye believers, take heed and give the last of your profit to the mosques, if you do indeed believe. End of verse. So a very short verse, I feel here, and this is recapping the previous 3. Even though he's already said this like 6 times, he's making sure, O ye believers, you know, if you are in fact a worthy Muslim, if you believe this stuff and you follow it, i.e. if you're, a good Muslim, you will take heed and give the very last of your profit to your mosques. So Allah is literally saying, I know you give most of your money to the mosque, but I'm watching you. Don't even think about it. Don't even think of pocketing a single coin, taking a single thing for yourself. No, O Muslims, if you do indeed believe, i.e. if you don't want to be sent to hell and off of the head you're dead, be killed by other Muslims, you will give your very last dollar, your very last coin to the mosques, and you will give all of it to the mosque without want of reward or praise. And if you do that, ye do indeed believe. And then between the lines, the implication is, if you don't do that, you are not a believer, i.e. you are a terrible sinner like those evil Jews and Christians we're going to go and kill. You will be damned and you will be burning in hell forever. That's what this means. 204. If ye fail and live with riches, Allah shall make his terrible jihad on you. His messenger shall bring your deaths. But if you do repent your greed and reward your wealth to your mosque, ye shall be dealt with fairly and not be killed. End of verse. So, One of the first times we have this jihad thing mentioned, and it's actually mentioned by Allah having a jihad against his own Muslims. So that's interesting, isn't it? We haven't got to the jihad bits of this book yet, but I'm looking forward to those. But it's worth noting the first reference to a jihad that Allah makes is against his own Muslims. And the reason he wants a holy jihad against Muslims, to kill them and burn them forever in the grave, is because they kept back some money from him. Like, they've already given him most of their earnings, but they kept back a little bit, and then that was them living in riches. So, and I quote, Allah shall make his terrible jihad on you, his messenger shall bring about your deaths. So what does he mean by the messenger will bring about your deaths? Well, he means he's not going to personally do the dirty work himself. As we know of Allah, he likes to throw his Muslims at you so that they can take the blame for having murdered you and he doesn't have to worry. So that's what this means. And then he rounds out the verse by saying, but if you do repent your greed and reward your wealth to the mosque, so if the last minute you think, oh, I'm terrified of being killed by other Muslims here, I better just give all my money to the mosque. Once you have done that and you've given Allah all your money, ye shall be dealt with fairly and be not killed. Now, being dealt with fairly doesn't mean you're not going to be beaten up, threatened or raped. It just means you will not die at this point. So I feel like ye shall be dealt with fairly and be not killed is literally Allah saying you will still be punished at this point, but we won't actually kill you. When I send my Muslims to enact this jihad upon you, they'll just beat you up, steal your stuff, destroy your house, bully you and make you feel bad, but they will not kill you. That's what this means. 205. When your slaves fall in your debt, you shall give time for them to work themselves free of that debt. Or better still, have him pay to the mosque charities. That is what is best for you and he, lest only you both knew what Allah hath planned for you. End of verse. So, in the breakdown, I'm noticing these are quite short and to the point verses, not like some of the other ones we did in the last episodes. Well, not the immediate last episodes, but previous episodes last week. I feel like this is one of those times when Allah doesn't want you to be in any doubt. He's not trying to confuse you with lots of fancy words and terms, and he's not saying, remember when I did this in the past and I said this in a quote, and he's not setting up a confusing situation for you. This is very, very clear, and I feel like when it comes down to Allah getting his money, he doesn't want you to be confused. He only wants you to be confused when he's talking about you and your life and what you do. When it comes to you giving Allah all your money, he wants you to be absolutely certain and not be able to misinterpret this as you might have done the previous verses. And that is why in his short verses on this page, he is saying things like, when your slaves fall in debt, you shall give time for them to work free of the debt. So what he's saying there is when your slaves owe you money, you can't punish them immediately. You have to give them time to build up some money to pay you back. But what is better still, and I quote, it is better for you to have him pay the mosque charities. That is better for you both. So if someone's in debt to you, O Muslims, you're not allowed to pressure them to give you that money back. You have to eat the cost yourself. But if you pay it back to Allah, both of you will be doing better. That's what's best for you and the guy, your slave, who's in your debt. And the reason why it's better for you both is not because you will be rewarded for this. You know, your charity will not be rewarded. Because remember, you're not allowed to ask for reward or praise. You're supposed to do it and shut the fuck up, give all your money and walk away, and not feel pain or grief because you'll be punished. The reason why you are doing this, and I quote, if only you both knew what Allah hath planned for you. So Allah is literally saying, do this, give me all your money. If anyone's in debt to you, make them give me the money so that you don't get it. And the reason you're doing this is, oh, if only you fucking knew what he had planned for you. This is Allah, between the lines, threatening his own Muslims, saying, if you don't do this, what I'm going to do to you, I'm already planning up this horrible plan to punish you now. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but if you knew what it was, you would definitely be giving me your money. And then you'd be worshipping me enough. That's what this means. On a point, right, this whole page is just been about Allah demanding money. And I'll bring you back to his initial accusation against the Jews, why the Jews were so evil, why he called them greedy Satans in the first place. because they dared to make profit on their trades and not pay it to him. That's why he hated the Jews initially. Before he did the calf sacrifice thing, before he told Moses how to do the calf sacrifice, then turned around and told his Muslims it was evil, before even that, the reason he hated the Jews initially is because they wouldn't accept his Quran and they were traders. They made money for themselves and they didn't give it to the mosque. So I feel it's a little bit hypocritical of you, Allah, to be making out that everyone else is greedy and bad for making money and living well, living a wealthy life, when you, Allah, take every single last penny for yourself and give absolutely nothing in reward apart from threats and between the lines threats. So there's two different types of threats. There's open threats, I will kill you and burn you forever. And there's the in between the lines threats where he goes, oh, if only you knew what horrible punishments I was cooking up for you, O Muslims, you wouldn't even argue. You'd give me your money now and you wouldn't fucking complain. That's what this means. And that brings us to our last verse, 206. Fear the final day where you will be brought before Allah. Your debt to Allah will be most prominent, and every soul shall pay fully what Allah does demand in his justice. End of verse, end of reading. So, breaking this one down, I feel we've gone through enough conditions of when and how you're going to give all your money to Allah. What will happen to you if you keep any of it? What will happen to you if you try and give it to your slave? You try and lend it to your slave and tell him to buy things that you can use. So you try and circumvent Allah's will. No, you're not allowed to do that. Your slave will be punished also. And if you've previously done that and then you read this, Allah is saying, as long as you both pay back to the mosque with every penny, then you'll be forgiven. And if you don't, Allah will know. He'll know what you're fucking doing and he will punish you severely. Then he finishes up by saying, fear the final day. That's the beginning of the verse. Fear the final day. So what Allah is saying is, even if you get away with it for your entire life, just before you die on the final day, the end times genocidal prophecy day, when all the Jews, Muslims, and all the Jews and Christians will be killed by the Muslims, upon that day where you will be brought before Allah. So after you've finished cutting the heads off all the Jews and Christians and taking all their money and enslaving all their wives, after then you also die, because remember, all men must die for this to happen, so he'll kill you as well. After you've been killed, then you will be brought before Allah, and your debt to Allah will be most prominent. So what he's saying is, you owe him a debt anyway. Despite the fact that you're giving him all your money all the time, even if you give him every single penny you ever earn and you never ever take anything for yourself, even if you never ate or had a house, let's say that you could do that, you're still in debt to Allah, and what he's going to do is make your debt to him most prominent. So no one other debts are going to matter, nothing else in your life is going to matter. The only thing that will matter on that final day is your debt to Allah, and I quote, every soul shall pay fully what Allah doth demand in his justice. Which I think pretty much says, no matter what you do, O Muslims, no matter how devout you are, no matter how much worshipping you do and how obedient you are to Allah's commands, no matter how many Jews you behead, when you get to that point when you meet Allah, you will be in debt to him, and he shall make you fully pay what he does demand, which he doesn't say what that is, but he calls this justice. So he's actually, in a roundabout way, saying, O Muslims, you are being punished by this mosque and Quran worship, all these commands and having to give your money away. The reason he's treating you like this, O Muslims, is because you are bad. He's created you as slaves, and that means you're bad. That's why he's created you that way. And at the end, your soul will be taken from you as payment of your debt to Allah, and he is demanding this in his justice. So he wants to have justice from you by killing you and taking your soul, despite the fact that you've done all his commands and given him all your money. And that's the end of the reading. So in conclusion, we can see once again lots of evidence in Allah's own words that not only is he a greedy bastard that wants all your money and your soul at the end of your life, and everything that you do has to be this, not only that, you are greedy and sinful if you try and copy that from him. So whereas usually he wants you to be like him, angry, not forgiving, murderous, and obedient to his commands, On this particular occasion, he doesn't want you to be like him because he's allowed to have all the money, but you have to do all the earning of the money. So he's not sinful or greedy for wanting you to give him all the money, but you are sinful and greedy if you want to keep the money that you earn and not give it to Allah. And that's the end of this video, so I hope you enjoyed that. Later on we'll be going through probably more. I think there's going to be some more stuff about Allah's greed and the various ways where you can give your money back to him. So we'll be tackling that at 4:15 this afternoon. Until then, God bless, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Yet more evidence that Allah is a socialist, so make of that what you will. If you'd like to continue reading the Quran with me, I'll be back at 4:15 this afternoon. So until then, have fun, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Bye bye bye.